weekly PhD blog, week 15. They're really starting to add up now. So, I sat down with the supervisor this morning. We had a bit of a chat about where my head's at and the current hypothesis. Glad I did that because it turns out I was planning 5 PhDs instead of just the one. I keep doing this. My ambition knows no limits, apparently. So, rather than attempting to develop an ethical framework that can be then administered via AI to deploy a suite of intervention measures, he rightly pointed out that to do that as part of proper research, I would need to do a full literature review on every single one of those methodologies, of which there are approximately 80 in 10 different categories, and then monitor and evaluate all of them, meaning that that's a whole government department's worth of work. So, I thought it was doable, but apparently not. So, no, I mean, it's well pointed. It's a point well made. So, what we're going to do instead, the ethical framework is still the major output, so we're going to focus on that, but specifically, we're going to focus it around deployment through a single intervention. I'm currently thinking empathetic counter-speech, potentially, quarantining's potentially up there. The trick is that what's the other one? Inoculation. That's a fun one too. So the trick is that we need to choose one that will be used going forward, ideally mainstreamed going forward, right? Because we want the PhD to be relevant. If I choose an intervention that no one wants to use or that they just don't use for whatever reason, because technical complexity or whatever, then the PhD becomes irrelevant. So, or sort of marginally relevant at best. So what we're going to do, we're going to focus on finding the intervention method. We're then going to refocus the literature review around that and the ethics framework around that as well. From there we can develop that's some piercing traffic noises. Trams, huh? I shouldn't do this outside. Tram in Melbourne Uni. Okay, yeah, so from there we can then conduct an experiment. The literature review of the interviews is still definitely a good angle, but rather than doing it publicly, we might end up having to do that privately because people aren't necessarily going to be willing to share what they're doing with the intervention methods in practice publicly. Anyway, we'll look into it. I'm getting some advice from various people right now. I reached out for advice from a few experts in the field now about the best intervention method to choose. Anyway, so we deploy that intervention method via AI using the ethical framework, and we can experiment using that. So that narrows the scope down a hell of a lot. It feels like, it shouldn't feel like this, but it feels like a cop-out. I feel like we could do a lot more, but I'm just one person, as I constantly have to get reminded all the time. Anyway, so yeah, that refines things quite a lot. I'm going to have to work on this and flesh this out a bit more, and we're still got to choose the right intervention method. But ultimately, this is a correction, and that's literally the correction. So, as Matteo put it, better to suffer now than later. And yeah, I can definitely, having known a few people who've done PhDs, if things aren't all signed off on early and professional work for that matter, suffering comes real bad towards the back end of the PhD. At the absolute minimum, I want to have a rock solid agreement between me and Matteo, the supervisor, and the rest of the supervisory panel before we go to confirmation, because I don't want to be having these debates at the tail end of things, especially after we do the data collection. So, suffering now, benefit later. I'll thank myself in a year. So, anyway, yeah, lots more work to do, but good to refine the questions so that we're not just wasting time.